You're listening to the Atlanta Dream Center Church podcast. If you'd like to support this ministry, you can give at www.dreamcenterchurch.com, where every dollar helps advance the kingdom of God. We hope that this message edifies and encourages you to do the great things God has called you to do.
Hey guys, we got a great service, but I just got to tell you a few things, man, because look, I know only two of us clapped when I said who's had a good week, but man, I've had a killer week. It's been amazing. Every night we've been going to bed at what time, Susie? 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We've been partying. Yeah, we've been having ragers, not real ragers, Christian ragers, where we just talk about Jesus all night. We're good Christian people. And no, but we really have been. It's been every day. But can I just tell you guys a few testimonies of what's been going on? Can I share some testimonies with you? Now, I'm going to say this because my guy Eli, my friend, and the whole AVL team, I want to ask that this is on the podcast because these stories are incredible. Wednesday night, we had a worship night. Who came to the worship night Wednesday night? That was fun, huh? Yeah, I had a blast. Yeah. Hold up. You guys got to loosen up a little bit. It's a little quiet in here. Yeah, it is. You say it is? Yeah, you feeling that too? Can you guys can I hear that really quick? No, maybe we'll go a little higher. Okay, that was a little better. Make sure your vocal cords work today, all right? Wednesday night we had a worship night, but that wasn't the highlight because I want to talk about our outreach for a second. We had two young men. I say young men. They're in their 20s and 30s. They were in a program. We met them on the street. Mira Ben, actually, if you guys know who Mira Ben is, she got saved in this church, and she's radical for Jesus. I want you to know that. She is radical. And she was at home, and she went back to the place where she used to do drugs, where she used to be trafficked, because that's what her story was before she got saved, before God rescued her. And she went back to the same place that she was out on the streets using drugs. And she went out there and she said, I'm going to get people off the street. I'm going to change my story. And she went out there, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is the craziest stat in the world. Since the 1st of January, we've had 20 people get off the streets and into programs. Is that crazy? That's crazy. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts, though. We did not expect that. But two of those guys that we got off the street, I won't mention their names, they went into a program, and they were in that program, and they weren't Christians. They never got to come to our church, and the only encounter they had was Mara Ben and a Greyhound ticket. That's the only experience they had. And they go to this program, and they said that while they were there, they said, this program's too Christian. That's what they said. This program's too Christian. And so they said, we want to get out of this program. Well, one of the guys, there's two of them, one of those guys had a huge settlement. He had an accident with a vehicle, and he got a huge settlement, so he had a big sum of money come in. So he said, well, because we tell them all the time, if we send you to this program, we're not buying you tickets when you drop out. You know, you have to figure that on your own, but we'll get you there. That's how we work. And so while they were up there, he had this big sum of money. He said, well, once get some tickets, we'll go back down into Atlanta, and we'll buy a bunch of drugs. This is what he was telling his buddy. He said, let's go buy a bunch of drugs, and we'll become drug dealers. So we were part of a change in someone's life. They were drug users. Now they're drug sellers. Isn't that great? We're moving people on up. So they're on their way here, and they contacted Mara Ben. Mara Ben contacted us and said, hey, can you guys go pick these two guys up? We said, we would love to pick them up. So they're on the Greyhound. We picked them up, and Mara Ben she's our number one church pusher. She tells everyone, you got to go to the church because something happens at this church. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works, but I just know God's good, amen? And people encounter Jesus when they come here, and that's our goal, that people would encounter Jesus and have a real life change. And so we brought them in, and they are here, and they honestly didn't, to tell you the truth, if you're at the Wednesday night worship night, you might have looked right over them. They were sitting in the corner the entire worship night, quietly on their chair, just sitting there. They didn't lift their hands, they didn't clap, they didn't open their mouths, they just did this. And the entire time I thought, oh, they might be bored. Well, after the service was over, we're all dancing and shouting. If you were there, you probably heard Pastor Paul screaming, shout to God, you know, he's getting excited. We have it recorded, so you'll hear it later. It's one of my favorite parts. Pastor Paul there, yeah, hallelujah, Jesus. And so we, after the service, one of them grabbed me. I won't mention his name, but one of the younger guys grabbed me. He held my hand. We're standing outside the church on the steps. And he says, I've never, ever have had an experience like I did tonight. He said, I don't go to church. He said, I don't like going to church. He said, I haven't been to church in years, but you guys are different. Something happened here tonight. And he just started bawling his eyes out. And then he went and grabbed everybody else he could. I don't know who he grabbed, but he grabbed a few other people. He even called up Mara Ben and said, Mara, I've never seen a church that's that in love with Jesus. He said, there's something different about that place. He says, I've never been so loved. He said, when he walked in this place, everyone just hugged him. We said hi to him. We loved him. He was kind of a celebrity to the outreach team because we knew who he was. Those two are not out selling drugs today. They actually went into a different program because they encountered Jesus and said, you know what? That was a bad idea. Why don't we go and do something else? And what I love about that is that those two guys encountered Jesus and their lives were changed. Isn't that good? But that wasn't the only story this week. That happened on Wednesday night, and it was fun. But then something happened on Thursday night. Josh and Jonathan and then Sarah and Chris, the team, they went out, and they were ministering to some people, and they met a guy. I could use his name, Ronald, yeah? Is that where you met him on Thursday night? Yeah. When did you meet Ronald? 2 weeks ago. Oh, never mind. Okay. Story's still great. I'll just make sure I'm not tripping. This all just happened this week, though, right? Yeah. Okay, God, I was thinking, man, what happened? Maybe I do need to go back to bed. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ronald went into a place and got kicked out. He didn't fit the criteria. I don't know if you know this, but certain drugs will allow you into certain programs and other drugs won't. That's just how it works. And you guys say amen to that? Amen, yeah. I think some of y'all are getting ready for church. I'm not there yet. Hang in. And he got kicked out, so he came here, and he had to be sober for a couple days before he could go into this program that we had set up for him. And so Ronald sat outside, actually. We let him sleep behind our gate. We didn't want him to leave, so we locked him up. Not really, but that's kind of what happened. And he would sleep here, and he would hang out here all day. That's what he would do. And Ronald would just smile. He was so happy. Every day he said, I think this is the day. I think I'm sober enough. I could go. In fact, when we told him it was the day that he could go into the program, he shot his hands up and said, yes, I'm finally going in. He was pumped. And he loved being here. He loved hanging out with us. He even told us after he's done, he's going to come back and help us out. Well, Ronald went into the program, and they did a little evaluation on his health. And they said, Ronald, your blood pressure is pretty high. He said, well, I've always had high blood pressure. I said, no, this is really high blood pressure. So they sent him into the hospital. They checked him out, and his blood pressure was so high, he has a heart strain. And the doctor actually said this. He said, if you stayed in the cold one more night, you would have lost your life. You would have died out there. Ronald, who doesn't have insurance, Ronald, who didn't have anywhere to go, got fully covered by the program. They covered him with insurance. And then they said, and when you're done in that hospital, we want you in this program because we could see that God has a plan for your life. You're at the end, and he snapped you up and said, no, not yet, Ronald. Isn't that good? That's just two of the testimonies. It gets a lot longer, but I don't have all day to tell you testimonies. Can I just tell you, though, I don't know what's going on in your life, but I'm telling you, God is moving in this church. Amen. Isn't that good news? Isn't that good news? All right. Look, I'm not going to let you be quiet in this church, y'all, okay? Look, I've had too many quiet services, and what happens when it's like that, I start sweating, because that's what starts happening, because I start shouting too much. So I'm just going to tell you straight, all right? Even if you don't like what I'm saying, you can be like, oh, give me one of those sounds or something, okay? Hey, can I get some help really quick? I got a sermon for you today. If you have notes, I want you to put this on the title. Can I get one strong Brock, you're strong. Come here, Brock. I need your help. We're going to move these stairs for me, man. Come on. If you have a title and some notes, here, grab that side with me. Come on. Oh, there we go. The title is Your Stage Matters. I want you to, everyone say that. Say, Your Stage Matters. Look at your neighbor and say, your stage matters. You want to get this one with me too, Brock? I'm just killing some time. So why don't we just say it one more time? Your stage matters. That's right. Look, everyone in here, you guys have a stage. You guys have an influence. Thanks, Brock. Actually, yeah, spin it for me. Thanks, Brock. Yeah. And we're going to put it together. I hope no one forgets that I stole the stairs. I don't want anyone falling today. That would be embarrassing. Your stage matters. Give Brock a hand. Look at that guy. What a guy. Look, everyone in here, you guys have influence. Everyone in here. Look at your neighbor. Look at him. That person has influence in someone's life. They do. Look at them. And they might be ugly, they might be pretty, but they got influence. They do. And they have a stage on this world. And this sermon is going to kind of take a couple different paths, but it's going to land in one area. It's going to be the main point, so I want you to hang in there with me, okay? But I talked about this on a Wednesday night service one time. By the way, Wednesday nights are back up. Aren't you guys so excited? I love Wednesday nights. But I wanted to talk about it here with you guys, about your stage, about your platform, about who you influence. How many guys got a mom or dad? That's a trick question. Okay. I see who's active today. How many guys got siblings? How many guys have friends? Anyone in here? How many guys got coworkers? How many guys run into strangers every day? Anyone in here? Can I tell you a quick testimony? Because I have a lot of testimonies from this week, but I got to tell you one more. Yesterday, I'm walking into the gym. I'm going to talk about a stranger. And I'm walking and I'm praying. I got my worship music on. You don't know this. I'm like jamming in the gym. It's usually just worship music. I'm just like in the gym feeling pumped. And while I'm in that gym, I'm walking to the gym. A lady pulls over, rolls down her window and says, hey, do you know where T-Mobile's at? I have no idea where T-Mobile's at. I said, I can help you find it. And she said, okay. And I looked at her and the Spirit of the Lord just spoke to me and said, she's not doing okay. So I asked her, I said, Are you okay? She said, no, my husband just died yesterday. She said, I'm trying to turn my phone in because I can't afford 2 phones. I just want to keep his phone. And she started crying. So I just told her, you know what? I'm a pastor, and I'm going to help you find that T-Mobile, and I want to pray with you. And she said, I want you to know my husband was a pastor. And she started crying. She said, isn't this just God that I could have stopped anyone on the street, but I decided to stop you today? So we start praying, and she wasn't just normal Christian. She was one of those crazy Pentecostals. She started speaking in tongues. I loved it, man. I got pumped up standing next to her going, okay, this is it, man. So we started praying. Now, I want you to know something. You even have influence over the strangers that you're going to run into today. You have a stage. And I usually talk about this sermon because I like to talk about prayer. But I'm actually going to talk about power today. I'm going to talk about your power. When I say power, I don't mean your strength. I'm not talking about superpowers. You guys know that one scripture in Matthew chapter 6, the Lord's Prayer? It goes, our Father who art in heaven. You guys know this, right? How many of you guys were raised in church? This is like the prayer, right? The very ending, it says this. It's actually, look at right here, Matthew chapter 6. Let me show you what it says. It says, and do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. And it says, for yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. I used to read that as a kid. I used to quote that as a kid. And I would always understand, yours is the kingdom. Now, I get that. Yours is the power. And I'd always take the word power, and I would always just think superpower. Because we're talking about God. So I'd always think, oh, God, yours is the power. You could do it all. You could, stop the storms. You could do all that stuff. And that's true to an extent. But that word power right there is actually defined in the Greek as lightning, or power as in like might. But then it goes even further to the ability to influence. The ability to influence. In fact, if we take that same word, that definition, which I'm going to read it right here because I want to make sure I hit it all, means to act or produce an effect. I have the power to make this water disappear. It means to have an official authority, capacity, or right. Then finally, the possession of control, authority, or influence over others. And we're going to get back to this scripture about telling the Lord, hey, this is your power. But before I get there, I used to always think of this word, like I was saying earlier, as a superpower. But over the years, I've learned that power really is, the easiest way to describe it is to say your influence. And everyone in here has an influence. And you might think the person next to you has more influence, but no one has more influence than you in the people's lives that you're around. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. How many of you guys got Facebook or Instagram? Anyone here got Facebook or Instagram or Twitter? I guess people still use Twitter, Snapchat, Foursquare, MySpace, something. And you get these friends. And I'm always blown away by what people put on their Facebook. Because this is what I always think. Every time I think about someone's Facebook is that if I look at how many friends they have 2,000 friends. When they get on there and they start typing out, whatever they're typing out, I don't know what people are saying. You guys want me to react? I actually put a few down, but I thought, I don't need to read these to you. How many of you guys have seen things posted on Facebook? You go, why did you write that? Anyone ever say that before? How many of you guys ever wrote something and wished you didn't write it? Anyone ever done that before? Yeah, me too. Yeah, me and Micah. I always think to myself, man, that person has an audience of 2,000 people, and that's what they want to say to them. That's what they want to say to them on Facebook. They have the influence. They have the ear of 2,000 people, and they're going to get on Facebook, and that's what they're going to write? That's what they're going to get on there and say? They're going to get on there and talk about whatever it is? I've seen people with millions of followers, and they get on there. You know what the only thing they communicate and influence out there? Hey, I have a new product. You should check it out. And that's what they're using their platform for. But then I think about you. I think about you, and you guys have influence. You guys have platforms. You're on Facebook and Instagram. You have an audience of 2,000. You have an audience of 500. You have the audience of 10 people who said, I want to follow you. I want to be influenced by you. I respect who you are. I want to know what you're doing. And what we do is sometimes we take that place or that platform, we use it for what? I don't even know, I know when I was younger, I used to just do jokes on people all the time. That's all I do. One time I got in big trouble for this with a lot of people. But one time we were going to Phoenix, Arizona. And I decided, this was a stupid joke, but it was one of my favorite jokes I've ever did. I got on Facebook and I started typing out the Home Alone 2 story. You guys seen Home Alone before? I said on Facebook, I said, guys, you'll never believe it. I was putting batteries. I got on my platform. I told everybody this. I was putting batteries in my recorder, and my dad was wearing a brown jacket, and he ran up ahead of me. And I was running after him to go catch the plane. And I actually ran into the stewardess, and we mixed up our tickets, and I got on the wrong plane. I think I just landed in New York City. I'm alone in New York City. This is what my Facebook post said. Guys, everybody, Junior Robin is right here. Junior has friends and family in New York. He's texting me, Tom, I have family up in New York. You could go there and stay. People are like, I can't believe it, Tom, you're in New York. And I just took that platform, that influence, that moment, and I seriously decided, I'm just going to keep going with this thing. You guys remember Home Alone 2, right? I said, I can't believe it. I got Dad's credit card. I'm going to go stay in a hotel. Then later on, I put up another post. You guys remember when he's in the hotel, he runs into Donald Trump? I just ran into Donald Trump. Guys, people were following this thing. They were concerned about me. They were calling me. I wouldn't answer anyone's phone calls because I thought my joke was too good. I was thinking, there's no way I'm ruining this. People were like, Tom's lost in New York. He's alone. Then I even went as far as to say I was in the park and I ran into two guys that looked real suspicious. I just kept it going. And by the end of it, not everybody, but people were upset with me. They're going, Tom, why did you trick us? I'm over there giggling. I even told my wife, they're so stuck up. We can't take a joke. That's what I'm telling them. But what happened was I didn't realize the influence I had on people. That they were entrusting me to tell them the truth whenever I got on there. That when I got on that platform, that I wouldn't abuse their trust in me. Now, I'll be honest, at that time, I actually, no joke, you're going to think maybe these people were stuck up, but they weren't. I had to apologize to people. I said, hey, I'm sorry I fooled you. I'm sorry that I used my platform and I misled you for a good laugh. And people were hurt by that. I remember that was the first time I realized that, because I wasn't the pastor. I was just, to be honest with you, I was just a youth pastor. But that was the first time I realized, wait a minute, I have influence. I want to say this to you guys. You guys have great influence in people's lives. The people who were offended at me for that joke, I didn't even know trusted me. I want to say this about your influence. There's people who trust you that you didn't even know are watching you every single day. How are they acting? What are they doing? What are they talking about? What are they focused on? What do they like? I don't know if you know this, but I could see what you like on Facebook. What are they liking? And here you got this stage, and I want to say this, I'm using Facebook, but you have a stage in this room. Everybody in here, you have an influence in this room. And I got to say this to you, your influence, your stage matters. It is one of the most incredible things that God has given you. That people are looking at you going, what are they doing? They are going to be a guide to me. What are they saying that's going to influence my life? Now, I'm saying this to you because I want to encourage you right off the bat. Some of you guys feel like you don't have any importance. I want you to know something. You are extremely important. There are people watching you because they want to know, how do they get where they are? They want to know, how do they have that joy? How many of you guys have Jesus in your heart? Anyone in here? Yeah. How many of you guys love him a lot? How many of you guys love that? There's people watching you going, if this Jesus guy is real, then what's happening in this person's life? Listen, one of the biggest lessons I've been learning is I got to grow up a little bit. My wife tells me that all the time. Tell the truth. Hey, shut up. So I'm going to ask the question, how can you use your power, your platform the best? How can you use your stage? I use Facebook, but I want to talk about your work. How can you use your stage? How many of you guys got coworkers that don't believe in Jesus? Anyone in here? My worship leader just shook her head yes. I'm a little bit concerned. She said, yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. She knows something I don't know. You guys have an audience. People are watching you. How can you use that better? Maybe you don't got coworkers. Maybe you're like my beautiful bride. She has coworkers, but they're all remote. I don't know if you guys know this. She's a journalist. I also don't think you guys know this, but today is her birthday. She is a wonderful age. I won't mention. That's right. Happy birthday, Susie. You're welcome. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I used to always brag about how cute Susie is, right? I always talk about how wonderful and beautiful she is. But then people would always groan like, ugh. So I want to take today to brag about her, and you're not going to groan. Is that okay? Is that all right? My wife, and I could do this even outside of her birthday, but since it's her birthday, you guys are going to have to deal with it. I really do believe she's the most beautiful girl in the world. I want you to know that, okay? Do you say yes? I'm telling Mom. Oh, you believe that? I believe. Okay, all right. But I also believe that my wife has influenced me in a million different ways. I got a mullet right now. She didn't influence that, okay? You see my mullet? You like that mullet? Thank you. But she is the influence of why it's going to be gone tomorrow morning. That's why she is my influence. And I don't think she knows this necessarily to the extent, but I don't know if she knows how much of an influence she has on me. But one of the things I do know is that Susie's job, and it's her own self-purposed job, is that she will always help lead our family into the best of ways. She said, if I have a stage amongst my children, and I have a stage amongst my husband, I'm always going to pursue the best of things. And she does that in the small things. For instance, we clean our house every single day. How many guys got kids? I want you to know, if you got 5 of them, your house is never clean. But with my wife, she says, I'm going to have influence in this home. She's decided that her platform, even if it's just at the house, even if it's just with 5 little tiny kids and an obnoxious guy who likes to do stupid stuff with his hair, she decided, I'm going to use that stage and I'm going to influence in every way I can. And she always pushes it to this one thing, that Jesus might be glorified in this home. Now, I'm bragging about my wife because it's her birthday and she deserves it. And I want you guys to do me a favor after church, wish her happy birthday, okay? Is that cool with you guys? All right. If you don't know her, introduce yourself and say happy birthday. Yeah, it's a great introduction. She'll never forget that. But how can you use your stage best? But let me just go over a few places because I just want to ask you these questions real fast. How can you use your stage in your family? First, let's talk about your parents. How many of you guys got great parents? How many of you guys want to confess that maybe your parents weren't the best? Don't raise your hands because I don't want you slaying them in this church. You could do that somewhere else. But some of y'all feel like your parents weren't that great. I'm going to tell you right now, I believe my parents were the best parents in the entire world. They're the best ones I've ever had, for sure. And I want to say this to you, though. I have a place of influence even amongst my parents. And I'm their child. They raised me. They spanked me. They wiped me. That was gross, but it's true. They've done it all, and the reality of it is you have a stage with your parents. How are you influencing them? What are you talking about with them? What do you focus on? Can I get it even further? What kind of questions are you asking? Well, that's a big deal. Can I preach a little bit something to you guys really quick? I love to preach to you about some things that don't go along with the sermon exactly, but how many of you guys got kids? Anyone of you got kids? Look at you guys. How many of you guys want kids? How many don't want kids? Hey, let me tell you about kids real quick. The questions you ask them is going to direct them. What are you asking your children when you're on that stage with them? Do you tell them, I heard Andy Stanley say this, I thought it was brilliant. He said, you could tell your kids all day, you could get on that platform, that place of influence, you could tell your children, I just want you to try your hardest in school. But whether your questions are, well, tell them what you're really concerned about. And if your question is, well, did you get an A today? Then they know that it's not about their ability of trying, but rather it's about whether or not they could get that A for you. What you ask is going to direct the influence in your life. What are you talking to your parents about? Actually, let me ask this question. Are you talking to your parents? Because you have a stage with them. When's the last time you talked to your parents? When's the last time you called them up just to chat with them? Let's talk about your siblings. If you got siblings or your aunts and uncles, when's the last time you called them? You have a place of influence. I'm blown away every time I see my aunts and uncles because they want to know everything that's going on in my life because there's an influence. I can't believe that mullet-headed kid is doing these things. Let's talk about your spouse. You have influence with your spouse. You have influence with your spouse. Listen, how many, I'm not going to say it. How many of you guys know husbands who run the house pretty firm? Anyone in here know any husbands like that? Nobody? One of us? Two of us? Yeah, two of us? You okay, Sylvia? Do you need help? Blink 2 times. I'm just kidding. Oh, here's a better question. How many of you guys know wives that run their house with an iron fist? Anyone ever seen that before? Yeah? Yeah? We got more hands on that. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. Maybe you guys are equal. You have influence. How are you using it? Are you using it for your own benefit, or are you using it to glorify Jesus? Where are you leading the people around you? Now, I want to say this. Some of you guys are hanging out, and I'm going to say this about Jonathan. Jonathan's on our team recently. Hey, Jonathan, this nice-looking guy back there with the red shirt. Jonathan, he hangs out with people who are not even in his own sphere. He goes out and he hangs out with people who are on drugs. He's been doing outreach with us. And I was watching the other day, and he was sitting with a guy who's ready to get off the street, ready to change his life, and he just hangs out with him. And he doesn't glorify drugs. He doesn't glorify the street life. You know what he wants to talk about? You know, God could do a lot in your life. Because he knows in that moment, even though he's not in any relation, he has influence over those people. But let's ask another question. How are you using the stage with your friends? What are you talking about with your friends? I hate that one. Because with your friends, how many guys like to get loose? You know, they talk about whatever. I'm a sucker when I hang out with my brother Micah. I'm a sucker. I always want to laugh. Does anyone in here like laughing? I love laughing. And we'll do anything to make each other laugh. It won't even be funny things. We'll just go until someone laughs. And there's been times that me and Micah would be on the phone and we'd almost repent to each other. Hey, Micah, I don't like what we've been talking about lately. I don't like how our jokes are getting so dumb. You know, let's pray. Our influences got whacked on each other. Let's bring it back to Jesus. Can I ask you another question? You have a stage with the people at the grocery store. How are you acting with them? Now, let's actually get better. You have a stage on the freeway when you're driving, you little suckers. Yeah, they'd be driving crazy. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I'll be driving and someone will, you know, I've confessed already I'm a bad driver, okay? So you don't need to go down that road. But people get mad at me and they'll flip me off and they pull up ahead of me and they're rocking a Jesus fish on the back of their car. There's a pastor who was telling a story one time. The guy cut him off. He got real mad. He was yelling at him, chewing him out. Not giving him the finger, but wanting to give him the finger. Pulled up behind him, started following him real close. You guys ever done that? Get real mad at someone and try to intimidate them? I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it, right? And he said, while he was following the guy, he followed him right to his church. It was a first-time visitor coming to church that Sunday. Could you imagine? I'd be like, I'm sick, guys. I got to go home. No doubt about it, you even have a stage in the grocery store, at your gym, on your walk. How are you carrying yourself? I actually want to say this to the men in this place. You have a place of influence with how you look at women when they walk by you. This one freaks me out because it's crazy to me because I think every day I realize more and more that I live in a man's world in my own head. I don't understand what it's like to be a woman. I think about this all the time. I could go out in the streets and walk by myself and not think anything of it. No one compliments me on my looks. I'm a little insecure about that, but no one does it. No one says anything to me. In fact, if anything, people are intimidated by me. I walk around places, not because I'm intimidating, but because I just walk around alone. People think, who is this guy walking alone? But with a mullet, yeah, thank you. But my wife, on the other hand, she walks into an area and she's all of a sudden a prey. There's people looking at her, calling her out, saying things. And I want to say this about my wife because I'm bragging about my wife today. When I first met her, she came down here to do kids ministry at her church. When I first met her, she would go into the worst neighborhoods in the world I mean, they were so bad. You'd go there, and in the dump area, there would be old mattresses, and all the kids would be jumping on the mattresses. That's what they would be doing for fun there. It would just be extreme poverty. And then while they're there, because drug dealers and people of terrible influence like to prey on the low income, you'd go out there, and there would just be a bunch of drug dealers and gangbangers. And my little pretty wife would go out there, and she would walk those streets, and she would go and minister to the kids. But I remember going out there with her and hearing these men say the most profane things to her. Watch them look at her with their eyes up and down. I'm saying this to you guys because I know every woman in this church has experienced that before. And they've been influenced by the men who are doing that. Can I say this to you men? You have an influence when that woman walks by you. What are you doing with your head? What are you doing with your eyes? What kind of comments are you making? You're being watched on every level. Like literally, you're being watched on every level. And I'm saying this to you because I want to make something clear. Your stage matters. It's not the megastars. It's your stage, your influence. You have the ability to break someone or to make someone. In every area of your life. But this is where I want to go because you guys were at church. I got to get some scriptures out there to you, not just because we're at church, but because these are great examples of people who had great influence and they got screwed up because they didn't let God influence them first. Everyone put your hands up and stretch it real hard. Go ahead, stretch it. We're at that final stretch mark. There you go. There you go. That has some good stretches in there. That felt good, huh? I saw some of you guys even open your eyes. That was good. Okay. I want to get two stories, or one story, just real quick, about a man who had influence and he used his stage. Because the next question I want to ask is, how do you use your stage for good? That's what I want to ask you. How do you use your stage for good? I've made it very clear. I've taken about 20 minutes just to nail one thing out. You have an important stage. This guy right here, Brock, has an important stage in life. Everywhere he goes, people are watching him. His family is watching him. This guy right here, is it Vinny? Vinny with the best hair in the entire world? This guy has a stage. He does have the best hair. That was the first thing I think I said to you when I met you. Larry back here, you guys might not know Larry. Larry has a stage. I can't say that enough. So how the heck are you supposed to use your stage for good? How the heck are you supposed to use your stage? Because I look at someone like King Saul in chapter 15 of 1 Samuel. You don't have to go there. I want you to read it later, though. It's one chapter. It's an easy read. King Saul, man, this guy had all the influence of Israel. In fact, it wasn't just Israel. He was influencing the chosen people of God. That was his stage. And he was on that stage, and he had something in his heart. He wanted to serve God. I want you guys to know this. Saul would always say, man, I want to be in favor with God. How many of you guys want to be in favor with God? Anyone in here? I want to have favor with God. And Saul always wanted God's favor. There's no doubt about it. If you read chapter 15, you'll see that he didn't want to ever lose God's favor. That was a desire of his. But Saul influenced the people around him. And he didn't influence them to do the things of God. Rather, he influenced them to do the things that made them happy. That was his influence. Have you guys ever said that before? Just do what makes you happy, man. You guys ever said that before? I've said that to myself. I just got to do what makes me happy. Saul does that, and what happens with Saul is that he ends up losing the anointing of God. And this is the story, just to go real fast, in 1 Samuel 15. Saul was told to destroy an entire nation. This is a crazy story, and I just want to put a little side here. I want you guys to know, when you read the Old Testament, that's not a different God. That's our same God. I want to remind you of something. He is the God of love and grace, but he's also the God of wrath. I'm saying that because that's a scary thing to recognize. And he said this. He said, I want the Amalekites completely destroyed, Saul. I don't want the animals to be living from that nation. I want you to completely destroy them. And so Saul heard the Lord, but he wasn't influenced by the Lord. Because when he went out there into that battle, he saw all how great the good animals were. That's a nice looking sheep. Bet you never said that before. Look at those cattle. Man, that could feed the entire Israel army. Then he saw the king that he was commanded to kill. He says, man, I got the king. I'm going to spare his life. And all of a sudden, he had something change in him. He was using his power because he was looking at that going, I have this stage, I have this influence. And what drove him and how he used the stage was, I want to make our nation happy. So what he did is he saved all the animals. He brought them to the side. He said, hey, guys, I want you to take all the animals. He took the king. He said, king, we're going to spare the king. We're going to use him almost like a ransom. The idea back then is when you took a king's kingdom, you would keep the king so the people that you let live would submit to you. So he took the king, and we could easily say that he left a bunch of the people alive. And he's feeling really good. He used his stage to benefit everybody else. I want to make everybody else happy. Isn't that a trap in your own life that you just want to make everybody else happy? How many of you guys have ever found yourself trying to make people happy and you end up just ruining everything? Anyone ever done that before? The rest of y'all are perfect, and I'm jealous of you, okay? It says this, that the prophet Samuel shows up. This is what Samuel says. I hear sheep. What's that? Is it bleating or bleeping? Bleating? What do sheep do? Bleat. They're baaing out there. They're out there, they're baaing. What is that? And this is what Samuel says. Well, the people wanted that, so I allowed it. The people wanted this to be that way. The people around me wanted to be this way, and so I took my stage and I served them with it. I influenced them. Let's do that, guys. I think that's a good idea. Samuel says, wait, you have the king that God told you to destroy the nation of? You have that king? He says, yeah, I spared him. Isn't this great news? And Samuel looks at him and says, don't you know? Because, let me step back. Saul says, man, we could sacrifice these animals to God. We could give it to God. We could make this a great ordeal. And this is what Samuel says to Saul, King Saul. Saul, don't you know that God's not concerned about your sacrifices? He'd rather have your obedience. Can I say obedience for a second? He'd rather have the influence over you than to have what you could give to him. And the story of Saul is insane to me because I could relate to this, and I'm going to end up probably ending on this story. I have some more stories, but I want to end on this because I don't want to take too much time, more time, because I think we've got the point. Saul influenced the people with his power, with his stage, and he led them in a way that was pleasing to them. But he did that, and just so you guys know this, because it made him look better. And this is what I want to talk about, using your power for good, using your stage for good. You will never use your stage for good unless first God has a stage with you. Can I say it again? Unless God first has a stage with you. You see, Saul got out there and he even thought what he was doing was a good thing. He thought, surely if I make sacrifices for the Lord, surely if I spare these people, God will be happy with me. And then God shows up and he's frustrated with Saul. He says, I wish I never made him a king because he no longer is influenced by me. I don't have a stage in his life. I don't have a stage in Saul's life anymore. He thought on his own. He thought he could be on the main stage. He thought he could influence how people, and he thought he was going to do a good job at it. I want to tell you something. You are not good at using your stage unless first you are good at letting God use his stage in your life. And when I say use a stage in your life, I mean first letting him influence you. How many of you guys want to be a better mom and dad? How many of you guys want to be a better spouse? How many of you guys want to be a better kid? How many of you guys want to be better at influencing people? It doesn't happen until you first learn to be influenced by him. And now I'm bringing this up because I want to go back to Matthew chapter 6. That prayer is maybe one of the most important prayers you could ever pray to God. I've been in so many situations where I want to see people get saved. I want people to change how they were, that they were treating themselves bad. I wish they'd change. And I always say, man, how can I influence these people? We do outreach, and a lot of times we're out in the street, we'll minister to 45 people, and sometimes only one person says, I'm ready to change my life. Sometimes we'll be on the street, we'll get rid of 75 meals, and only one person. Sometimes nobody on that street will say, I'm ready to give up crack cocaine. I'm ready not to be on homelessness anymore. And I'll think to myself, how can I be more influential? And I'll come up with all these ideas. Maybe we could serve double cheeseburgers instead of single cheeseburgers. Maybe, I come up with all my influences. But the reality of it is the only way I can influence people well with my stage is if I say, God, will you influence me first? What is it that you want me to do out there? God, I have a stage, Father. I have a stage amongst my family. I have a stage amongst the strangers. But first, God, before I get on that stage, before I go into that grocery store, God, will you influence me right now? What is it that you want me to do, Jesus? God, will you influence me in my life? God, will you take the stage? Will you, God, have all the power in my life? Will you be my influence? You know what that looks like when he's your influence? It's not fun. I'm going to tell you right now. When he's your influence and he's the one who has the say, when he's the one who has the power in your life, when someone mocks you or someone, scripturally, this says, if someone strikes your cheek. Have you guys ever been slapped in the face before? Man, my kid, one time, Jacob, we're playing, and he just slapped me hard. I remember it took everything inside of me to be cool. Like everything. I remember just like, oof. He's a kid. I remember telling him, like, don't do that again. He's like, oh, I thought we're fun. It doesn't matter. You know what Jesus' influence is? When you get slapped on one cheek, he says, turn the other. You know what it means to turn the other? It means to make your other cheek available for another strike. It doesn't mean turn away. It means make yourself vulnerable again. What kind of influence is that? God, I don't want that kind of, don't influence me that way. This is the influence of God, that you and I would preach to all creation his goodness. God, I want you to use my stage, God. He says, well, go preach to all creation. Well, hang on. Can I touch on some iffy stuff? If I talk about God at my workplace, I'll get fired. I can't do that. I don't want you to have that stage just yet, God. Some of you guys got family problems. You got family members who are all screwed up, coming at you. And you're looking at those people going, well, I want to be a ministry to them, but God, I'm not ready for you to influence me how I should act with them. Like I have a stage with them. They're watching me. But I'm not ready to listen to what you want to do in my life. I'm not ready for you to influence me just yet. Because if you influence me, I know what you're going to tell me to do. You say to my enemies, if they ask for a coat, to give it to them. If they're going to go walk a mile, walk 2 miles with them. And he's talking about my enemy. God, I don't know if I'm ready for you to influence me just yet. Can I just say there's people in this room that God's been trying to influence you to make a phone call and you won't do it. He said, you have a stage with these people. He says, I can restore people's lives, but you got to let me first influence you. Some of you guys are waiting for something big to happen in your life. You're saying, God, I want there to be a great change. I'm not fulfilled in what I'm doing. I'm looking for a great change. And he just keeps looking at you saying, I got the power to change you, but first you got to let me have power over you. Some of you guys are wanting revival to come into this land, and you're saying, but first I want revival over you. You see this scripture in Matthew, if I could just point out, this is where I'm landing. I'm going to end right here. Because I think I've emphasized enough that you have a stage. But if your stage is going to be used for anything, you need to first let God have a stage in your life. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. This scripture right here, God's commanding us, Jesus' command to us about praying, is that you and I ask God to have influence over us. Power. The ability to have control. How many of you guys like control in this place? Anyone here like control? I love control. When I used to play video games with my little brother Micah, I would let him pretend that he was doing really good so I could play by myself, basically. In fact, to give you guys I don't need to tell you guys another story. You guys don't need more stories. But I got great stories about playing video games with my wife. In order to control and have control and let her play with us, because my wife would never play with us in video games. We'd play Mario Kart. Anyone ever play Mario Kart? I'll kick your butt in that game. I want you to know that. And Susie would come downstairs, and me and Micah would play video games with her. For about 2 years, we did this. And we would play Mario Kart, and we knew if she lost that she wouldn't play with us anymore. So we wanted to have some control. We wanted some power. We wanted some influence. So me and Micah played a different game than Mario Kart with her. She would play Mario Kart, but we were playing a game. You know, she was going for first place. We'd go for second place. And for 2 years, we never told her that second place was the winner. And Susie would get first place every time. She'd go, man, I just can't believe I'm so good at this game. We'd be like, we can't either. Hey, you're so good. I like having control of situations. I like using my stage for what I like. I like using my influence to make you think certain things about me. I like using my stage to influence people so they'll like me more. I'll even talk a certain way just so you will approve me more. I like control, but the scripture that he's telling us to pray is to say, you know what, God? This stage is no longer mine. It's an important stage. It has power, the stage you've given me in my family's life. This stage has power in my friends. This stage has power in my strangers' places. And then in the grocery store, this place has power, but no longer, God, is it going to be based on what I think is better. But God, I'm ready for you to have power in me. In fact, God, I want you to have my stage. I want you, God, to be the influence in my family. I want you, God, to be the influence with my spouse. I'm not going to try to take control anymore. I'm not going to try to persuade them. I'm not going to try to act a certain way so that they act a certain way. I'm not going to talk a certain way so I'm letting that go, God. I'm losing control today. I have an important stage. I know people are watching me. And if I'm going to be like you, Jesus, then I need to pray something crazy. This isn't mine anymore. This is yours. How I act in that grocery store is no longer how I want to act, God, but how do you want to act? Influence me. God, my power has been selfish. My influence has been about me, but today, God, I'm asking that you influence me, that your power, God, and that this stage is yours. Because I don't know about you, but every time I take the stage, and all your life, every time I take that stage, I'll be real with you. Every time I do it for the same reason. And I know you do too. It's not like I'm unique in this situation. You're always trying to pull your influence so people will like you. So people will approve of you. And what happens is we find ourselves in the same situation as Saul, doing great things, but missing God. And God's saying, don't you see this little prayer in Matthew chapter 6? That little last part that you probably skipped over so many times. You probably never thought about it once. That his is the power. Jesus is trying to tell you something. He wants your stage. He wants your Facebook post. He wants your marriage. He wants the way you even act in public. He even wants what you act in secret. He wants you to even ask him, God, will you have power in my life? It's not mine anymore. I've been trying to influence people every day of my life. I've been trying to get people to think a certain way about me, but no longer, God, I am subscribed to you. I'm ready to pray this prayer right here. God, it is forever your dominion. It's your kingdom. And God, all my influence is now your influence. What do you want to do with my stage? And you know what's scary about doing this? You know what's scary about giving God your platform in your marriage? Is he might want to do things that you don't want him to do. He might want to get into that relationship with your family or your friends who really did you wrong. And you don't want to get on the stage because you want to be able to stand your ground and justify yourself and let everyone know you did good. But he might be looking at you saying, I want you, if you give me that power of that stage in your life, I'm going to have you apologize to them. I'm going to have you call them up. I'm going to have you go knock on their door. You've been waiting for them to knock on your door. You've been standing on your stage. And he's saying, but no. If I take the stage, I'm going to have you go and do this. You see, when God takes control and he has the power in your life, what that means that you're saying, God, whatever you say, I'm going to do. I'll be influenced by you alone. And this is what I want to do as an ending right here. If I can encourage you guys for a second. Your stage matters. Your stage matters. There's people watching you every single day. There's people watching your Facebook likes, guys. I know because people tell me. There's people watching how you talk when you're not at church. There's people who are seeing how you're living day to day. They're watching you. They're wondering, what are they doing? Your stage has so much importance. Everything you post on Facebook, everything you go and like, everything you go share, every time you go and talk, it matters hugely. There are people's lives at stake every time you go out. And God just wants to do one thing with you. He says, can I have that stage of yours? It's important to him. God, why do you want to know? Why do you want to have control in this area? It's not important. God saying, no. It's in these areas that I will work the most incredible things in your life. Now, I'm going to ask a question today to everyone in this place. Are you ready for God to take the power in your life? For him to be the influence? It's an easy thing to say, but I don't want it just a confession today. I want to know if you're willing to make the decision all the way. God, I'm done fighting for my own. You take my stage. I want you to be my influence today. I want everyone to stand to your feet. While you stand, I'm going to sit because I haven't sat this whole time. Can we just close our eyes for a second? We're at the end. We're going to get you out of here. Just for the next minute and a half, I'm not going to take long. I want you to think about all the people you influence. I want you to start saying this little prayer. It's real simple. Jesus, will you be the one who influences me in this relationship? God, will you be the one who influences me in this position? God, will you start influencing me? God, what is it that you want to do? God, will you take power in my life? Will you be my influence, God, with my family, with my friends? God, will you be the influence, Jesus, with the strangers that I walk by every day? God, will you be the influence at my job? God, I keep trying to be the one who influences them, but today, God, I'm going to just ask you, will you influence me that I may have power with them? God, we want to use our stage for the glory of you. So today, God, we give it to you. Just take 30 seconds. That's all I'm going to take. 30 seconds. We're just going to sit here for a moment. I just want you before the Lord. Don't wait for me to talk. I just want you before the Lord. I have you close your eyes so you can focus in. Just tell the Lord, Lord, will you have all the power in my life? All the influence. Jesus, we just pray as a church, as a congregation, God, I'm just speaking out loud so we could be in agreement. Father, we have important stages, every one of us. We have important places of influence. Today, God, we want to give them to you. God, some of us have been doing weird things with our stages. God, some of us have been concerned about persuading people about politics. Some of us have been concerned about persuading people about things in this world. But Father, today we're going to say, God, will you take our stage? Will you influence us? What is it that you want to do with this stage right here? What is it that you want to do with me today, Father? God, what is it you want me to speak up loud? What is it you want me to be quiet about, Jesus? You are the one who has all the influence, all the ability, Father, to change one's mind. God, will you have that over me today? So, Father, we pray as a church, Jesus, that you would take our stages, that you would take the place of power. In the name of Jesus.
We hope that you enjoyed today's sermon. Once again, if you'd like to support this ministry, log on to www.dreamcenterchurch.com to help us advance the kingdom of God. And check us out on the Church Center app and all your favorite social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed and go do the great things God has called you to do.